guys, it's Kelly. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the 10 books I read in February. January I read 10 books, and February I read 10 books. So I've read 20 books so far this year in 2020. I read some books that I had on my January TBR and some of the February books that I had on my February TBR. I didn't get to, but that's okay, because you know what? I'm not worried about it. If I don't get to them one month, I'll get to them the next month, and so on and so on. So, the first one I read, I'm just going to jump right into it. First one I read, I had to get a second review copy. The first one is, well, these copies came from LitPick, a review service that we used to do, but we no longer do because I'm not paying $15 a year to just review books and then have them harass me 2 weeks later saying, oh, did you read it yet? Did you read it yet? I'm not doing that. So the last book that we've done for LitPick is The Illuminated Forest by Edwin Fontanez. This is just a beautiful book. It is highly underrated. It is about this boy named Mateo. It doesn't mention where the city is located, but I think it's in Puerto Rico or some island nation. Some Spanish island nation. I think it's Puerto Rico because the author is Puerto Rican, I think. I'm not sure. What messy. Mateo, he's going back to his grandmother's house on this island nation, and he has just lost a family member who was really close to him. And it turns out that it goes back and forth in timelines, and it has all these different characters. They're complex, and there's one of the point of views is from a cat, a stray cat, and it's just all of the imagery and detail and description is just so freaking beautiful. And there's pictures. Oh well, there's one. Some of them are sad and upsetting, and then some are just straight terrifying, and some are beautiful. But yeah, there is a lot of animal abuse in this one, and that's one part I didn't like, but I still gave this book a 5 stars, and it was my favorite book of February. Mateo, a boy of 12, returns to the island of his grandparents to say goodbye to Minerva, a beloved family member. Unhappy to be back in a place so full of memories, he struggles to make sense of the abrupt and irreparable loss. When the mysterious appearance of a stray cat complicates matters, a series of terrifying incidents turn his life upside down. At the end of his very personal journey, he wonders if Minerva had something to do with the valuable lessons he learned about growing up and discovering that love materializes in different forms and in unexpected places. So this is just so freaking adorable. And the grandparents, they're trying to fix their mistakes when what happened with their daughter, and they're trying to give all their love to this boy who's in the grieving process, and he's just and he doesn't want to get close to the stray cat because he knows that he's not going to stay on this island forever. Beauty and the Beast Lost in a Book by Jennifer Donnelly. My daughter, Samantha, she's been wanting me to read this book ever since she finished a year and a half ago, 2 years maybe, and I just kept putting it off because I don't like Disney princesses, and Beauty and the Beast is not my favorite. So, and it's her favorite. It takes place in the castle while the objects are still objects and Beast is still Beast. And Belle is just she's enjoying her time and loving her friendships with Mrs. Potts and Lumiere and Cogsworth and Plumette and Chip. And she's fighting with the Beast, and it's making her resent her memories and friendships with the objects, and she's just wanting to leave. She's wanting to run away again, but she remembers when she ran away, she ran into the wolves and Beast came and saved her. So the Beast ends up giving her the library, and then Beast tries to help, and he just ruins the cleaning process, and And so they clean up the library, and Belle finds this book called Nevermore. And it beckons her in and puts her in another world. My favorite parts were the point of view of love and death, because they start the story. They're playing this chess game or this betting game, like I bet you this and I bet you that, and you can't mess with love, you can't mess with fate. And death was like, nuh-uh, watch. So yeah, love and death were my favorite. And Cogsworth, he was my favorite. And World of Nevermore. I loved the illusions and the automatons. Those were my absolute favorite. Belle, I didn't care for her, like I don't now. Sammy is disappointed with my review, but that's my thoughts. I just did not care about Belle. Henri, I liked, but then he was that, and I wanted Henri and Belle to get together.
No.
Shush, this is my review. But I ended up giving Lost in the Book 3 out of 5 stars. My favorite characters were love and death. The chapters could have been combined. There was just too many short chapters. I love short chapters. It makes the book go by way faster, but it took me 3 days to read this, where it could have took maybe one sitting if the chapters were combined. And it was, I don't know. I read it for my daughter, and now I'm done. So, yep, 3 out of 5 stars. And now she's pissed. Pickles is pissed. Third book I read is Samantha Spinner and the Spectacular Specs. This is book 2 in the Samantha Spinner series by Russell Jens. This book is way bigger, and I took another 3 days to read this. It's more kooky and nonsensical. It's whimsical, and they go to a lot more places. I gave it a 3. The only thing I liked about it was I actually looked at the facts this time and realized that they were actually true, besides some of the bits. They end up going to this Arabian country. I think they go to Mali, and the author puts a landmark in Mali in this book, and it's a mosque, the Great Mosque of Djinn or something like that. And I thought the author was making it up, that on the top of the turrets at this mosque there's ostrich eggs, and I was like, yeah, that's made up, until I started thinking about it, and I was like, I'm gonna look that up to see if it's true, because I don't want my daughter reading fake facts and then thinking they're true. And so I looked it up, and it's true. The ostrich eggs on top of the turrets represent fertility, and I was just like blown away. So the facts about the landmarks are true, but the underground and the secret spy stuff, I doubt that part's true. So I may read the third one. I don't know, but I'm obviously going to get it for my kids, but I don't know if I'm going to read it, because yeah. And then what's his name? Nipper was just very irritating. The whole time he was just trying to get his Yankees back and losing his shit to Missy something. And it talks about a waffle iron and stuff like that, and just, yeah. It was very cheesy and just a quirky, is that a word? Quirky read. Second to the last of The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead book 15. This is... If you don't know what The Walking Dead is, it's about a futuristic world where if you die, you turn into a zombie and you bite people and you spread the disease. And it takes place in Georgia, about this small town sheriff named Rick Grimes. he finds his family and a bunch of other people, and they become a group. And so they go to a farmhouse, they go to Terminus, they go to the prison, Woodbury, Alexandria, and now there's a new place. There's a new place introduced at the very end with a new baddie. I'm not going to say it, but I'm not going to say if the baddie's on this cover. Yeah, this chick is Princess. Her name is Juanita, or I think her name's Juanita. If it's not Juanita, I'm going to... That's my grandma's name, so... Juanita. The one thing I didn't like about it is that it jumped back and forth way too much between all of the communities, Alexandria, Hilltop, Woodbury, the Kingdom, and them on the road. It just jumped way back and forth too much between all of the different relationships too, and it was a little too much. The story was disconjointed, and it was just... I liked it, but it wasn't my favorite. It didn't give me the factor. And then the new community I called Woodbury 2.0. That's my review for this. Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn. I read this with the Dragons and Tea book club over on Goodreads, hosted by Mel. I really enjoyed it. I give it a 4 out of 5. It's... Let me read my notes. It's about an asexual girl who gets dumped at the very beginning by her girlfriend because she doesn't enjoy sex. And her girlfriend is a whore. She's been with multiple girls and guys, I think, or just girls. I don't know. But she's been with multiple and she loves it. Alice. She just wants to be loved and have a romantic relationship without the sex. And so she has these best friends who she's been friends with since she was little, and she moves in with them. And her parents are so freaking controlling, and her mom, I just wanted to punch in the face. Her sister, I could have strangled her. And the brother, he was cool, but he was kind of on the controlling side as well. Like, you need to listen to mom and dad. You need to let them do what they want. And she just didn't want it. Her mom kept complaining about Alice not choosing a major. Well, not choosing to study law because her mom wanted Alice to become a lawyer. And that's what she was paying for. And Alice really loves interior decorating. She loves designing things. And... she's good at that. She doesn't know that she wants to do that until like the very end. And so she's also working at this library, and she meets this boy, and love ensues. She goes back and forth. She's not sure she wants to explain that she's asexual to Takumi, but she just wants love. She just wants a relationship without the sex. And so, yeah, it was cute. I had one of my favorite quotes of all time about buffering or lagging was cause a rage. I'll find it and I'll put it right here, but it talked about buffering and lagging, and it was relatable. Yeah, I loved it. Alice was my girl. I felt bad for her. The cover is just freaking beautiful. And I need to read more by Claire Kahn. I think she's got another book coming out this year. I'll put it right here. And yeah, I think it's about plus size girls. So that's another relatable thing. And so, yeah. I think Claire Kahn may be one of my favorite authors. So, yeah. I really enjoyed this. Thank you to the Dragons Tea Book Club for picking this, and yeah, it's not going to be my favorite of 2020. I don't think. It depends on how the rest of the year goes, but yeah, it was I don't do like decimal points in my stars, but it was a high 4, almost a 5. The next one is one of my A to Z book picks that Sammy chose for the month of February, and it is Miracle in the Andes by Nando Prado. It is 72 Days on the Mountain and My Long Trek Home. This is a memoir of a Uruguayan rugby player. He was on a Chile Air Force plane with his rugby team and his family going to they were on an Argentinian Air Force plane or a Uruguayan Air Force plane. I forget. They were on a plane going to Chile to play a exhibition rugby match. And the pilots were very scared to fly this plane because they knew storms were coming and it was difficult to fly between the pass. And the rugby team just kept going on, and there was also regulations that the plane couldn't stay in that one spot in that country for too long because it was a different country's plane. And so they end up crashing, and this is the memoir from Nando's point of view. He's one of the rugby players, and it talks about how they get stuck on this glacier in the Andes, I think between the Andes foothills, and they resort to cannibalism to survive because there's no food. They have to sleep under the dead to keep warm. And yeah, it's a lot. It was horrifying, and I just kept turning the page. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5. The reason it's not a full 5 stars is because in the first chapter, Nando talks about rugby team, and he talks about the positions he plays and how what positions his teammates play. After he gets done talking about rugby, he automatically goes to his father's history about how his dad was a poor farmer and then made a living working selling horse and tack saddle stuff. And then after they talk about the hardware stores, he automatically goes into his mother's history, talking about how she was from the Ukraine and how her parents immigrated from Ukraine before the start of World War II. So I didn't really enjoy the info dump in the very first chapter because it wasn't necessary. I didn't need to know his father's background and his mother's background. But yeah, it was horrifying. I thought I was gonna put it down. There's also a movie adaptation. There was a book called Alive, written about the plane crash and more into the scientific and the technical side of the plane crash, not from one perspective, but from an outsider's perspective. And they made a movie about it with Ethan Hawke, and I have it. I bought it, and so I don't know how the diverse is going to come into play, because this movie was made in the 90s. This happened in the 70s, so I think the movie was made in the 90s. I don't know, but the next book I read was Lucky Caller by Emma Mills. This was a January release, and I got this book for a Blog Tour spot for January. This was my first Emma Mills read. I give it a 3 out of 5. It was about this girl. Her mom has just got engaged, and she's living in this apartment in Chicago with her mom and her two older sisters. And she's in high school, and she's living with her older sister who's in college, and her younger sister who's in 7th, 8th grade, I think. And so, her mom has just got engaged, and the engagement was crashed by her two older neighbors and their grandson from down the hall named Jamie. And so the next day at school, they're starting school, a new school year, and they have this radio class together. And so her dad, who lives in California, he's a radio host. And so she doesn't want anybody to know, because then she'll be seen as, oh, well, you know all about this, you can do it, and we'll pass. And so they have to make their own radio show. And one of the guys in the group, he was just so freaking annoying, how arrogant he was. And so they're in this group together, and she's the producer. She goes all the buttons and stuff. And they do like songs of the 90s, which I was there for. I'm a 90s baby, so all the songs were my jam. And I listened to a couple of 90s songs while I was reading this, which made it a little bit more interesting. But yeah, it was just, I like the writing style, and I like the short chapters, and I like how the author also included bursts from the Dad's radio show. But I didn't like some of the characters. I think the girl, she was a little too into herself, and the broadcast journalism aspect was just my favorite, because that's what I wanted to go to college for. I got accepted into a college, and broadcast journalism was going to be my major, but I had to drop out. At the end, it got a little steamy, and I just wanted more. I wanted this to be an adult book, if you know what I'm saying. I wanted a little sexy times, but that didn't happen. There was a little tease, but no. Finally read Aru Shah and the Song of Death with my kids. This is book 2 in the Pandava Quartet. The first one was Aru Shah and the Song of Death, which I loved. It was a favorite. This one, I give 4 out of 5 stars. I had such a hard time getting into this. And the new Pandava sibling was not my favorite. I absolutely despised the new Pandava sibling. But the thing is, it's the name of one of my husband's cousins who I absolutely love. So, the new Pandava sibling, her name is Bren. Bren, if you're watching, I'm so sorry. But I hated this character. She was just so arrogant and bossy and rude. And one thing I have in common with the girl is that we both love food. She likes lasagna, I don't. So that, It has a lot of pop culture references, like the crab. Who do you think? When you see this crab, who do you think? Moana. And the crab was like, no, that's my cousin. He had to go to Hollywood. And it's just, really? Really? You could have done without the pop culture references. And my favorite character, Boo, he was in the beginning, and then he was imprisoned or locked up or not in the book until the very end. And it talked about Oreos, and we ate Oreos while we were reading, and it was just a fun time. Aru Shah and the Song of Death. This is about a girl named Aru Shah. She is Hindu. She's an Indian girl living in Atlanta, Georgia, which is my favorite place in the whole world. And her mom is a curator for a museum, or a natural Indian history museum or something like that. And she is known as a liar in school. And so a couple of these kids come to the museum one day, and they ask her to give them a tour. And so one of the kids starts touching things and breaks something, and something big like a genie, but not a genie, comes out and destroys everything. And then she comes into her powers and meets her first sibling named Minnie, and it's just a good time. They meet Boo the pigeon. It's great. The third book comes out in April. If you have not read the first book, go read it, because it's my favorite. This one, This one was another one I wanted to read last year, and that is City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare. I think this is book 5 in the Mortal Instruments. So, City of Bone, City of Ashes, City of Glass, City of Fallen Angels. Yeah, this is book 5. There's too many. Yeah, so if you don't know anything about this series, it's about a group of shadow hunters, which are demon hunters. And we follow this girl named Clary as she's coming into her abilities. She's been, her mind's been tampered with all her life to make her forget her memories, and glamored. It's a huge glamour. And then she meets Jace at this nightclub called Pandemonium, and she sees him killing a demon, and he's like, why, how can you see us? How can you see that? You're supposed to be glamored. You're a mundane, which is regular, like a muggle. So, and they find out that she is this bad guy named Valentine's daughter. And so hell ensues. She starts her shadow hunter training. And yeah, so this one, I give it a 4. It wasn't my favorite. My favorite is still book 2, City of Ashes? Or City of... No. It's either City of Ashes or City of Glass that is my favorite. I'm usually annoyed by the character Simon, and I wasn't annoyed by him at all. There was a relationship between Maya and Jordan that I thought could have been taken out of the book completely because it didn't do nothing for the story. One sentence that Clary says to her mother, "You're ruining my life!" I was just like, oh my god, no. And another thing, it's supposedly from between this book and the first book, 6 months since she found out she was a shadow hunter, and she's so freaking head over heels puppy in love with Jace. It's sickening. And I was like, how can you be that in love with the guy you just met 6 months ago? I love him. No, you don't. You don't even know him. Obviously, he's being with by a guy who's supposed to be dead, and who is my favorite character. And another thing that made me want to cry is Magnus and Alec. Magnus Bane is a warlock. My first favorite character in the whole freaking book. The bad guy is my second favorite. But yeah, I read this so I can finally read Clockwork Princess, because I'm going by Emma Books' Shadowhunter reading order, which I should follow Cassandra Clare's reading order that she just put on the internet, or has put on the internet some time ago, and I just saw. But I want to read Clockwork Princess because I need more Jim Carstairs in my life. And the new series that came out this month, Chain of Gold, it follows the offspring from the characters of the Infernal Devices, and I'm just living for it. But I don't want to read the other books to get to that one. You know what I mean? And Luke, that scared me. And the little girl. What snap? Simon done up. Book 10, the final book that I read in February. And it's the last one. And it was not great. I thought I was going to cry. I thought I was going to scream. I did none of those things. I had one shock factor. One! And my kids are laughing at me. Pickles is pissed, okay? I can't speak. So, do y'all want me to show you the book? Walking Dead, book 16. The end. I'm not happy. I'm not. I think it was just too rushed. The conflicts, they were very freaking rushed. And I knew something was going to happen to Rick, but I didn't know what, because he's not in the show. The show and the books have just deviated so far from each other, I feel like. I know there's some aspects from the books or the comics still in the show, like Negan with the Whispers. That was in the book 14. Book 13, because that was... I don't remember. I think it was book 14. That Negan did what he did. And I don't think that happened in the show yet, or they're not going to make it happen. Which is totally freaking stupid, because that would be like, what? But, anyways. My guess, because this character is no longer in the show. He's left. It's a he. I think that they're going to give the end plot line to Judith. And how they did Maggie's son Herschel in this book, it just pissed me off to no freaking end, because why would you do that to Glenn's offspring? Why? Glenn was my absolute favorite. I freaking bawled like a baby at his death scene in the TV show, along with Abraham. If that's a spoiler, I'm so freaking sorry, but whatever. And I cried in the book. I wonder if they're gonna have Stephanie. I'm just naming names because y'all probably don't know who I'm talking about, but yeah, I think it just went it was rushed, very rushed. I think Robert Kirkman just didn't flesh this out well enough. I think he got to he said he already picked out his ending before. He wanted to get to like 200 issues and he didn't get, or 200, 300. He wanted to get so many issues, and then he got to the end and was like, yes, this is the end. I think you could have done a whole lot more in this community and then had the big conflict. Change it up, because I know that the Whisperers and the Saviors and then Woodbury and Terminus, they were a little different, but they were similar. I think you could have went a whole different direction than he did with this new community, and I think I'm still bitter about how he did Herschel. It's not my favorite. I give it a 3. I had one shock factor, and that's what happened to Rick, even though I knew it was going to happen. But him being found by a certain someone and him being something, it was just, it's going to be a long ass wrap up, because I'm just I'm hoping the show does a whole lot better of an ending than this series. That is the end of my February wrap up. My throat is dry, my voice is almost gone, but I hope you enjoyed this wrap up. I know it's going to be a long one, but hey, I got all my thoughts out and I got my emotions out. So if you've made it this far, please give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, have you read any of these books? Have you read the Walking Dead series? Or are you still watching it? Are you caught up? Because I'm still in season 8. I need to prioritize my life and my TV watching. Because my TV watching is non-existent except on Wednesdays. But anyways, please give me a like. Hit that subscribe button, please. I go on more emotional and detailed spews of my reading. And yeah, I'll see you on my next video. Bye.